Well, it's that time to make a video for BookTube. Today is, according to my diary, my October 2016 diary. Today is the 24th of October 2016. According to my clock, it is 8:24 at night. It's a Monday. It is 70 degrees inside my hermit cell. Existence is flowing by, the death flow. I'm in the eternal now. I'm inside the Godhead, and the Godhead is outside of me, and all things are unified in Christ. So I am been reading still The Village, History of Greenwich Village, 400 Years of Beats, Bohemians and Radicals and Rogues. I just finished the history of Greenwich Village during the Prohibition years, and now I'm in the Roaring 20s. It's called the Coney Island of the Soul. I kind of like that title. Coney Island of the Soul. It has kind of a poetic ring to it, doesn't it? So I've really been reading that today. And this morning I continue to read this book, which I'm really enjoying. I'm just plowing through this one. I'm on page 105. That's pretty good for me. It has 234 pages of text. So yeah, I'm reading this. The Biblical Authority under Babel, Retrieving the Solas in the Spirit of Mere Protestant Christianity by Kevin J. Vanhoozer. So yeah, I've been reading that in the mornings. It's kind of a slow reading. You just don't speed read through Vanhoozer. You gotta read and think about it, but I'm enjoying it. So that's all I read today. I was going to mention some things here just to break up what I usually do. I was in my main study here, and I was just looking at something, and I wanted to mention, I know what it was. I was on YouTube a little bit ago, and I noticed they were playing a Santana concert, Carlos Santana. And one of my first albums that I bought when I was about 16 years old was an album by Carlos Santana. The first albums I bought was Carlos Santana, Led Zeppelin, Manfred Mann, I think, the White Album by the Beatles. Those are kind of albums I remember buying. It was kind of interesting that the money that I bought those albums with was that when my mother was killed in an auto wreck in December 1968, my mother was a barmaid. She worked as a waitress. And when she died, she had $63 worth of tips. And that's when my mother died, I was given that amount of money. I was given $63 of my mother's tips. And I remember I bought albums with it, and I bought art supplies. I bought, so that's kind of like where I've always been, art and music. I don't remember the first book I ever bought. Back in those days, I was always going to the public library, Richmond Public Library, and I didn't really start buying books until I was like in 12th grade, 11th grade. I always used the library there in Richmond, California. So anyway, when I heard Carlos Santana, I was thinking one of my favorite movies, and I watch it at least once a year, is Woodstock, 3 Days of Peace in Music, the director's cut. I remember when I was in high school, they used to play this film all the time in Berkeley at this huge, on this big screen on this old theater, movie theater, and I would go there and smoke marijuana and listen and watch Woodstock over and over again. Another of my favorite films that I watch at least once a year is Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks film, with here is Gene Wilder, Peter Boyle, Marty Phil Freeman, Clovis Leachman. I just love this film. One of my favorite concert films is Nirvana, Live at Reading. These are kind of things that I kind of like at least once a year I watch. So yeah, that's the kind of things I like to listen to. Today I got some CDs. I got CD by Dark Funeral, The Secrets of the Black Arts. This is a death metal album that came out in, I don't know when it came out, 1996. So I got that in the mail. I did go visit thrift stores today. Our contractor was here and he was making a lot of noise and rebuilding our kitchen, and I left and I just went around local thrift stores and I found these books. I found this memoir called Lost in Meritocracy, The Uneducation of an Overachiever by Walter Kirn. This is a memoir. It says here, I don't know, imagine Holden Coldfield at Princeton, stranded in a rooming group of sadistic trust fund heirs, losing his soul to deconstructionism, dropping acid, flaunting the honor code, flirting with disciplinary action, heading for a breakdown. Readers of Kern's work are familiar with his flamboyant intelligence, but in this tour de force they find something new. Kurt turning his devastating wit not only on his world but on himself. He delivers a hilarious, brutally honest portrait of a young man as he comes to recognize the fraudulence of the self, and he has constructed and struggles to become something true. A portrait of the artist as a young screw-up. The journey from rural Minnesota to Nassau Hall may have been hell for Kern, but readers can't help having a fabulous time. It looks really, I like memoirs, and it looks very well written. And I found this novel by Geoff Nicholson, Bleeding London. He wrote a book called The History of Walking that I looked at when I was into geography, when I was really into this whole thing about walking, and so he wrote this, Bleeding, and I found this novel, Famous Last Words by Timothy Findley. I had a novel, I already have a book by him in my library, his book Pilgrim by Timothy Findley. And I found a novel by the writer George Sand, her novel Horace, which was translated out of French by Zack Rogow. It says here in the back, when French feminist ahead of her time, George Sand, first submitted Horace, her editor threw up his hands and refused to publish it. Set against the 1832 student rebellion in Paris, the novel features a love triangle involving a would-be writer, a barmaid, and a working-class artist. What horrified Sand's editor wasn't so much the cafe scene setting and bohemian characters as the story itself, in which a fallen woman is allowed to triumph over her adversaries, strictly taboo in 19th century literature. This particular novel reveals the Paris that Sand knew best is more characteristic of the rapier-witted author than many of her more pastoral, previously translated novels. So that looked pretty good. Only 60 cents. And then I found this book, Reasons to Kill: Why Americans Choose War by Richard E. Rubenstein. I have 3 books by him. But one of the books I found, other ones I couldn't find, is Aristotle's Children, How Christians, Muslims, and Jews Rediscovered the Ancient Wisdom and Illuminated the Dark Ages by Richard E. Rubenstein. So now I add that to my stack. Then I found this biography, The Virgin Queen, The Personal History of Elizabeth I by Christopher Herbert. He edited this London Encyclopedia, edited by Ben Winrib and Christopher Herbert. So yeah, and then I found another novel by Isabel Allende, Ripper. I collect her novels, and this one came out in, I think, 2014. So I found those today at local, just thrift stores around where we live. So that's what's going on in my book world, and I got a book coming in tomorrow in the mail, some CDs. Not much else going on. So yeah, so I don't know what else to say. I noticed that I don't do book tags. The reason why is because I don't play games. I'm not into following rules, except the rule of Christ, the law of Christ. I don't know. Maybe I'm too serious. I just always go my own way and do my own thing. And I'm a bookworm. And I just like talking about the books that I've been reading and the books that I've gotten at thrift stores and the books I got at mail. And I like talking about art and music and literature and movies. And so I'm not really into doing tags. Plus, I don't read a lot of fiction. If you have to have read a lot of fiction to do book tags. And I mostly read books, nonfiction, because I like to learn new things. I like biographies, I like memoirs, letters, history, art history. I like reading about nature. I like reading about the American West. I like reading about writing and about painting and about words. And so if you have not read a lot of fiction, you can't do book tags. So anyway, so I just wanted to touch base and thank you for the new subscribers. Feel free to ask me questions, any comments. Until next time, bye.